Hi guys, welcome to Truth Talkin Thursday. This is Jim. I'm Jane, and we've just had a lovely little conversation here again. More of like a rant. I ranted, and Jim listened and offered some insightful advice. And so now I'm thinking about projecting. And what I mean by that is projecting past experience onto the present. And for me, I think that causes me to view something something right now that may be similar to an experience or have the potential to be similar to an experience that excuse me, that I've already experienced, but it is not. And so I influence that current experience in a negative way. Does that make sense? Are you following me or not really?
Sort of, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, what I want to know is, how do you not do that? And when should you do that? Like, here's an example. For me, it's very important for me to have to feel safe in my own home. Very important. Mm-hmm. So, I will do anything to make sure that happens. I.e., if I don't feel safe with somebody in my home, they're not welcome in my home. And I think that's fair.
Yes, I agree. Yep.
So that's one thing. To me, I feel justified in projecting that forward based on previous experience. But there's things that I should not project that I do.
Okay. And how does that cause you distress when that happens, when you do that? Are you conscious that you're doing it?
No, I don't think I'm conscious until I've worked myself into such a state that Jim and I were just talking about Jim, you said you make decisions based on what again? Can you just reiterate that, because I think that was important.
We were talking about decision making and all that kind of thing, and I agree with Jane 100% in terms of the house needs to be safe. If there's no other place on the face of the planet that needs to be safe, it's your own home. You need to be able to go home, close the door, and feel safe. And if you're not, then my strong suggestion would be consider what ways do I need to do to make this a safe place. And if it's somebody needs to go, then that person needs to go until they can demonstrate that they're safe to be around. Anyway, that's my little kind of thing on that. But decision making for me is more. I used to base my decision making on facts and data and knowledge.
Can you give an example of that? Of something you may have made a decision based on that, just real quickly.
Well, relationships would be one. Fact of the
so
matter.
If she was hot and
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
this was part of our conversation before, man. I'm just kidding.
No, it's not. Anyway,
I don't want to get too specific here, because
no, but I mean, that's a good topic for me, the relationship piece, because I've in my earlier days, I would base my decisions to be in relationships with other people based on a whole different set of criteria. You talked about lenses earlier, and the lens that I would use to make that decision as to whether I wanted to hang out with this person or not were based completely and totally different on a different set of facts and figures. Well, not figures, but facts.
Literally.
Literally. Yes.
Hourglass. We're going for.
Yes. We're going for that. The facts and data and sort of knowledge and looking back on it now, I find that was really probably not a very good way of deciding who I wanted to spend my time with and what kind of time I wanted to invest and all that sort of thing.
And now you said you now make your decisions based on emotion. So
Emotions,
can you explain
feelings and instincts?
Can you explain that in relation to the relationship thing now then?
Well, I mean, sure, yeah. The feelings. Obviously, feelings are feelings, right? I mean, for instance, you cannot force yourself to love somebody.
No.
You can't decide. Well, I'm going to love that person.
Can you decide that you're not going to love that person?
Yeah, you probably could. In that I don't like when that happens. I don't like when you do that, or I don't like when I see that, and that behavior continues to perpetuate itself and all that. So knowing full well that that's offensive to me, or a behavior is scary to me, or I can't count on it, for safety, and I keep seeing the same behavior, yeah, I can. I don't know whether it has a direct effect on I don't love you anymore, but I can't be with you anymore for sure. And if I can't be with you,
that would affect, treatment like that does affect whether you love somebody or not, though. I mean,
we could do that. We could have that conversation another week. That would take a whole week.
I mean more if somebody is what you want,
mm-hmm.
and you do love them,
mm-hmm.
but you think you shouldn't for some reason or other, can you decide not to? Even though they're doing everything right.
So why would I decide that I don't want to do that?
Well, because it's scary.
Ah.
I knew that would get him.
Ah. Yeah,
He's in his glory.
Scary, huh?
He thinks he gonna pick my brain.
Yeah. Then I would have to go back and I would question why I made the decision in the first place. What I said basically was to Jane that out of those three things, I would tend to base a decision as to what I was going to do next and where I was going to go next, excuse me, on two out of those three, basically. If my instincts were telling me that this was a good thing, and my feelings or my emotions were telling me that this was a good thing, I'd be more likely to kind of give it a whirl and see what was going to happen there. If I was only getting a vibe from one of those three things, then I'm probably not going to be near as likely to get involved in that relationship to the same depth as I might, or the same intensity as I might otherwise.
That's really funny. I'm thinking back over the course of some years for myself, and I'm thinking that I think I felt when I first moved out that I couldn't trust my emotions and instincts,
mm-hmm.
because look what it got me.
Yeah. And
so I think that I've been trying to use facts and stuff, and it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Like, I mean, thinking about relationships, I've dated a couple people, and just...
Since?
The emotion part?
Mm-hmm. Not happening.
Just not there.
So why would I get involved in
So
it?
I just kept trying, and finally I'm like, something happened, and I realized I literally hadn't talked to the person in 2 weeks, and I didn't even realize it, and I'm thinking, I feel like this is probably a sign that I really don't give a crap. Maybe I should stop.
Yeah. I just stroked you off my Christmas card list.
Yeah. It's gonna be a good Christmas.
But how, I guess the point is how often and how many times do we make decisions based on facts and data, as opposed to going with how we see things and how we feel. But facts and data allow us to be influenced by other people who don't even know us. And so how do they know what we want, and how do they know what's good for us and all that? And for us to kind of give up or abdicate our responsibility to make our own decisions to somebody else is just that's insanity. That's just being a lunatic.
But I feel like you must have to really be in tune with yourself then emotionally, really.
Yeah, you really
in order to allow yourself to be ruled that way. Because for me, I think, as I said at the beginning, sometimes my emotions I get into such a state without even necessarily being aware of what I'm doing. It's just like one thought leads right to the next one, and pretty soon,
mm-hmm.
We had talked before about, if you didn't talk to me all day, and, in my mind, well, you need to apologize for that, and in your mind, you're saying, well, what if something happened to me? Did you ever give that a thought, that maybe I was hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, for me, though, honestly, I probably did give that a thought. I probably had you in the hospital, in the morgue. I probably
Yeah.
I know that I overthink. I know that I do that. And I know that I need to cut it off. But sometimes to do that is an effort.
So what we should do is tune in next week with some ideas and answers around some of this stuff so that we can...
So you should do that, yes. So what you need to do this week is send us some information on how you deal with stuff like that. So that we can maybe have some fresh ideas on how to deal with all these little issues that come up.
they're big issues, I think,
They are.
in terms of, I mean, we speak an awful lot about an awful lot of topics, obviously, but it really gets narrowed down to two or three things. I mean, do you like being alive? Number one, do you want that to be the best experience you're going to have, basically? So, in other words, and I don't mean to be flippant with it, but if I'm going to be walking the planet, I want to make it to be the best experience that I can possibly make it. And if we're finding out ways to make it better than it can be or it is, then shouldn't we at least take a look at those things? And that's kind of what Jane and I do each week, is we take a look at those things. We're not telling people how to live their lives. We're just saying, have you thought about it this way? Have you looked at it from that point of view? And if you have, great. And if you haven't, well, then maybe that's what you do. So anyway.
And I think, in all honesty, a lot of us can identify with the thoughts that Jim just expressed, because I think all of us, I don't think anybody wants to live a life that isn't fulfilling.
Right.
And, you know, I think sometimes we just either get stuck and forget how, or feel overwhelmed and don't know how. So that's what we're here for. And, I mean, I think it's great to have help and to have friends and to talk about things. I think that's the best way of learning and growing. So have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for stopping by.